Which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
When you passed the Sokovia Accords, you tore the Avengers apart. Why the change of heart?
I represent all Americans now.
Can Sam take Ross's words at face value? Has he really America's best interests at heart, or is there a hidden agenda? Or is he hiding something else? Something deep inside he isn't even aware of himself. Hi there, it's Micha. Join me for this review if you like to find out. At the end of a Disney Plus show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson had finally taken on the mantle of Captain America, just like Steve Rogers wanted him to do. Since then he was busy keeping the United States safe, which often leads to joint operations with the US military. On such a mission, we find him at the start of a movie.
Wait for it.
The task was to retrieve the stolen sample of adamantium, a new metal that is even more powerful than Wakanda's vibranium. It was extracted from so-called Celestial Island, which was formed when the celestial Tiamut emerged in the Indian Ocean at the end of the Eternals.
I have to admit, I'm still getting used to the new look.
They said lose the mustache or lose the election.
Thaddeus Ross, who 5 months earlier was elected President of the United States, is in the middle of proposing a global treaty to avoid an arms race, making sure that every country has access to the material, when an attempt at his life takes place. Apparently, someone behind the scenes who is able to mind control people is hellbent on provoking an armed conflict as part of their agenda, which Sam and his allies try to prevent, while Thunderbolt Ross also struggles with an inner conflict, fighting hard to keep his calm. I went into this one with mixed feelings, not really expecting much, and to let you know right off the bat, that way I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't jumping up and down either. On one hand, I do like Anthony Mackie and his character, and I thought the teased plot around the conspiracy could work. It did well in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. On the other hand, and on a personal note, a superhero movie with a hero without superpowers is always a bit hit or miss for me. And regarding conspiracy plots within the MCU, the most recent one ended up being one of the biggest letdowns of 2023. Yes, I'm looking at you again, Secret Invasion. That one for me was the low point of the franchise so far. And with a track record of recent years, especially after hearing about massive reshoots and re-edits, this one could go both ways. It ended up walking the middle ground, being solid, though not mind-blowing. The main issue keeping this movie from being great was the script's indecision of what it wants to tackle. This should have been a movie where we find Sam Wilson front and center, having embraced his new role, having left all doubt behind that plagued him during the run of the TV show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And at the beginning of the movie it seemed that way, but then the doubts came back. He called out several times that he should have taken the serum, regretting to be just a human. That felt repetitive and also directly fed into my superhero without powers worry I mentioned before.
You're not Steve Rogers.
You're right. I'm not.
He uses a lot of technology to make up for it though, and still mostly ends up duking it out with low-level opponents, which even includes beating up senior citizens like Giancarlo Esposito's character. Basically, except for his final battle, only one henchman posed a real physical challenge.
I bet you break easy. Not that easy.
Like I said, I like Mackie, but he looked a little bit lost in this one. However, that is not all I meant by the script's indecision, because the movie tries to be a continuation of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, bringing back many of their characters, including Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon.
Nobody saw that.
Who seems to have grown even mouthier than ever. And Isaiah Bradley, a super soldier once meant to become a new Captain America.
Who's a pretty boy?
Pretty boy? You didn't tell Gramps about me?
Been working with him for 3 years. I haven't figured out how to shut him up yet.
So what are we doing here? Orthopedics? Oh,
That would have been the right way, upping the ante and giving us a confident Sam Wilson. Instead, we get self-doubt, and even with the attempt at POTUS and the looming threat of a global war, the stakes felt surprisingly low. On top of that, someone higher up seems to have noticed all the plot lines from previous movies lying around unsolved. And while I appreciate them finally starting to pick those up, maybe don't try to tackle too much at once. There is Celestial Island, which addresses some of the leftovers from the Eternals, which no one expected to ever be addressed again. They played over the issues Secret Invasion left us with, as we now have a new president, for which I'm actually thankful. They also reintroduced the concept of the Black Widow program from the eponymous movie, which at the same time felt more like a lead-in to the next Marvel movie that will hit theaters in early May, and will bring back Black Widow's little sister Yelena Belova in Thunderbolts. A movie I'm very much looking forward to, and where I, considering the title, expect Ross's character to at least make a cameo. But speaking of which, the movie then spends a lot of time with Ross's character and his backstory, turning the movie more and more into a sequel to the 2008 movie The Incredible Hulk, bringing back some characters from that flick, of which I, to be honest, after 17 years, didn't have the freshest memory. Which brings me to mentioning two plot points you could consider spoilers, but since both were teased in the marketing material, one blatantly and one more indirectly, I will address them here. So if you have seen the trailer, stay on. Otherwise, feel free to leave and return after watching the movie. Okay, you are still here. So the first one is the identity of the villain, which is revealed pretty early on, and you can already see his silhouette and hear his voice in the trailer.
Global power is shifting. You're just a pawn.
Which is the leader, aka Samuel Stearns from The Incredible Hulk, where he had a head wound that was contaminated with Bruce Banner's blood, and that would turn him into the smartest man on planet Earth. A quick side note, as that movie was released in 2008, I at first thought his makeup design was retconned, until I realized I confused him with the guy from 2011's Green Lantern. Was that just me, or was that happening to you too? If you also thought of this one, let me know in the comments. But back to business. Even if you didn't recognize Tim Blake Nelson in the trailer, basically every news outlet mentioned that he would return, so it was no big surprise in which role. The weird thing about his character, besides the underwhelming makeup, is the fact that in the movie he basically is a dumbass.
You ever ask yourself, who's playing who?
He is always calculating possibilities, but ends up mostly wrong. And his plan is dumb, as he could have reached his goal by simply mind controlling his intended target, or our hero who always spoils his schemes. And he kills people, apparently reluctantly, even though some didn't even really pose a real threat to his plan. A nice tieback though for everyone remembering that in The Incredible Hulk, Nelson's character went by the codename Mr. Blue, was the fact that the song that triggers the mind-controlled people into action is Mr. Blue by the Fleetwoods.
Watch this, watch this, watch this.
The other thing that the director and writer obviously wanted to be a big reveal at the end was the fact that Harrison Ford's Ross would turn into the Red Hulk. So of course that was given away even in the first teaser 7 months ago. Funny enough, even if that would not have been spoiled, if you know the comics, you were aware that that had to happen sometime. Anyway, while bringing back some of the characters from Incredible Hulk, surprisingly the big green guy himself didn't show up in any form. As a last call out, another weird script decision was that after Ross turned and didn't really attack someone, just hit some furniture, the Secret Service agents almost immediately opened fire. That was what really provoked him, ending in half of the White House being destroyed. Either those were the worst agents ever, or just lazy writing. After that, even missiles were fired at him. Sorry, but I don't buy that. And with that being said, let's get to the rating. As I mentioned, it was a solid movie, but not a great one. It had a weird mood and took itself more seriously than you would have expected. I only found myself laughing out loud once or twice. However, I liked most of the action. It is still a Marvel movie, though it sometimes felt more like a feature-long episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, minus Bucky. Harrison Ford did a solid job though and enjoyed himself.
I had seen actors in the Marvel movies have a really good time. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to get me some of that.
Overall, I was entertained enough, but noticed big opportunities for improvement. So I will go with 6.5 out of 10. Not bad for any movie, yet not great for a cinematic MCU entry. I have high hopes for Thunderbolts though, and will surely do a review for it too. What about you? Did you recognize Tim Blake Nelson, or were you surprised that his character returned? Did you buy the Secret Service shooting at POTUS? Whatever you like to share, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share or subscribe. So much for now, see you next time, and thanks for watching. Since then, he was busy keeping, and will bring back Black Widows will bring back Black Widows. That was just me? Was that just me, or was that happening to you too? Or our hero who always spoils his schemes?